Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denise Geary Show, and it is my honor and privilege to have former founding member of the Department of Homeland Security, PHILIP Haney, on the broadcast today, author of See Something, Say Nothing. Welcome to the broadcast, PHILIP.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Happy New Year, too.
Happy New Year. It's good to have you back on the show. There are some developments that aren't being discussed in the media since the president initiated that counterterrorism operation to take down the world's leading Islamist that was orchestrating attacks around the globe. And some of the things that are not being talked about, including on Fox News, is something that was shared out on the Middle East Media Research Institute. I'm looking at a report that indicates that the possibility of a threat to the U.S. homeland has already put authorities on high alert. They're pointing to cities like Los Angeles, California, as well as New York and other cities in between. Your old stomping ground, the Department of Homeland Security, has warned the U.S. public that while they don't have a threat that they can put their finger on, it sounds like there's been a lot of chatter, the bottom line is these jihadist cells, which I understand, sir, have been paying Mexican drug cartels to infiltrate into the United States and be smuggled into the United States through the border states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, that these jihadists are here and they're ready to go. Would you speak to that?
Yes, I have colleagues who are still active duty, and they are operating under what we call an IDSO. It's Intelligence-Driven Special Operation. But this kind of a threat level, everybody refocuses on those particular individuals in that part of the country. There was a story on one of the media I saw that they're holding up people with connections to Iran for extra length of time so they can investigate and vet them. I just had another colleague who is stationed in London who does pre-screening vetting, who's also asking more questions about people with possible connections to Iran. Mm-hmm. So it's part of the area that I used to be involved with. Yes, it's definitely gone up significantly in terms of vetting and paying attention to the country of origin. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I understand that London has also initiated a procedure where they're sending 2 warships into the area to support the U.S. fleet. I believe it's the U.S. 7th Fleet. Did you hear anything more about that, about Great Britain sending in warships in support of the United States?
No, not specifically, although in general they do often operate together. We're close allies, and we have a lot of overlapping interests in the area, of course, in the world.
I thought it was interesting. It says here that the U.S. National Intelligence Worldwide Threat Assessment has noted in its most recent report that Iran has been involved in continuing its work to penetrate the U.S. I want to share with you and the audience a conversation I had with an Israeli military individual once upon a time right here in California. And he talked to me about the fact that Israeli intelligence is distinctly aware of the fact, as is U.S. intelligence services, that we have sleeper cells, Iranian, Hezbollah sleeper cells. I even had a woman from Iran I guess it was 2 years ago, who kind of attached herself to me for a while. I would say it went on for about at least 9 months to a year. Individuals here in the country gathering information, as much information as they can. Are you aware of the fact that Soleimani apparently in orchestrating terrorist attacks here in the United States, which have often gone unreported, that there are sleeper cells literally ready to be activated at a moment's notice?
Yeah, the easiest way for everyone listening to catch up on that whole subject is to look up the information on Project Cassandra. Project Cassandra.
Project Cassandra. Okay, go ahead.
And there's open source information. You can look it up. Some very detailed information about the whole case. It was primarily led by the DEA. It had to do with importation of cocaine from South America through Venezuela up through Mexico into America, but also human smuggling, weapons trafficking, money laundering, the whole package.
Shebang. Yeah, okay.
And that case was on strong between 2009 through about 2012. And it so happens that I sat next to the officer when I was working on the Tablighi Jamaat case at the National Targeting Center in the Advanced Targeting Team in Washington. I sat right next to the officer, a fellow like myself, who was running Project Cassandra.
Oh.
So we both talked back and forth informally. Hey, Mr. Haney, what about this? Hey, Mr. Haney, what about this name? Where's this guy come from? All these little tidbits back and forth. And then both of our cases were shut down by the Obama administration at almost exactly the same time. But I know from sitting next to the officer that ran the case, in cooperation with DEA, with guys like Derek Maltz, that exactly what was going on vis-a-vis the threat. And I used to screen flyers, people flying through my airport, transiting on their way to Venezuela. And the largest mosque in the southern hemisphere, western southern hemisphere, is in Caracas, Venezuela. And there was a very strong, well-known Iranian connection. And we had a lot of problems with counterfeit and or fraudulent travel documents, either fake visas, fake passports, stuff like that. So that was all happening. What is that now? 8 years ago?
Well,
so
it continues.
All this drama that we're hearing on the media today about, the threat.
Yes.
Well, we knew about this a long time ago.
Years ago.
And we would have been a lot further ahead. President Trump was exactly right when he said today on the news conference, this guy should have been taken out a long time ago. After all, he was a globally designated terrorist. So how exactly are we supposed to treat globally designated terrorists like our friends? Nope. But we got handcuffed clear back there in 2012 when they shut the case down. And it's just been basically running in neutral. Not a whole lot of attention like it was on this kind of activity until more recently. Now I hear DHS and CBP, my colleagues, are now on IDSO, and they're focusing very specifically on the nature of this threat. That's called a Special Interest Country, SIC, and Iran is one of them.
Right. I think it's incredible that Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed terrorist army, has been paying Mexican drug cartels to bring up into the state of California. I understand that California, I don't know if you can back me up on this, but anybody can do the research on it. California has the largest Iranian population in the country, based on the stats I've looked at. And it's incredible to think about the kind of damage that could be done right here in my home state. Your thoughts, Philip?
Yeah, there's parts of LA they call Little Tehran.
Oh, okay.
And the Iranian immigration to the West came in the lead up to the Iranian Revolution.
Right.
I happened to be a student in the University of California at the time, and there were a lot of students who came from Iran I became friends with, especially when I was in grad school at UC Riverside. And so I got to know a lot of people from Iran, and they're wonderful people, very warm and kind. But the other side of the equation is that people come over the border illegally. Where do you suppose they're going to hide out? Right in the middle of the Iranian immigrant community.
Right. That aren't particularly loving and kind. And I thought it was interesting, if you recall, it was Jimmy Carter, a Democrat, that put a moratorium on Iranian students coming into the United States for university education. I don't know if you recall that. I don't recall it myself. I've just read about it. But I always thought it was interesting when President Trump said, we really need to vet people coming from Muslim-dominant countries where there's a tremendous amount of support for Islamic terrorism, that even a Democrat back in 1979, following the Islamic Revolution and the hostage takeover of Americans in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, that there was literally a hold, and people coming from Iran were not allowed into the United States. And I just wonder how many Americans are aware that a Democrat put a moratorium.
Well, you look at the false characterization of President Trump's effort to look at our immigration policy. It was falsely characterized as, remember, the Muslim ban.
Right.
It wasn't a Muslim ban. Mm-hmm. It was a list originally of 7 countries. The only one that was on that list that actually had a functioning government was Iran. But Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism.
Right.
Along with IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, being characterized as, or designated
as a terrorist organization.
In April, the whole country is a designated terrorist sponsor. And so that country, plus other ones like Yemen and Somalia and so on, were put on this original list. President Trump naturally, intuitively recognized, why don't we start with those countries that don't even have functioning governments?
Right.
We can't even really tell who these people are.
Right. They weren't able to cooperate with the U.S. State Department to even provide us any kind of detailed information on these individuals, and yet we were supposed to just let them in.
Yes. And now, in retrospect, 3 years later, President Trump seems pretty wise, doesn't he?
Yes,
he was trying to help protect the country, and now here we are dealing with the very same situation, but the wheel has turned a few more times. The winch is a lot tighter now, a lot more stress and danger right now than there was before. So, and no one supported him hardly. They were very opposite they were opposing it loudly in the media. The Democrats in the House, accusations flying every day. And now you don't hear them saying much about it, do they?
No. And I think it's important that the American people also understand that with regards to terrorism, that, you know, based on my work with the CIA and other organizations, and something that just came out, you know, you mentioned about an article in an email that you sent me earlier today from the Clarion Project. And I thought it was interesting when I was reading this piece from the Clarion Project where it says, the United States is going to deny a visa to the Iranian foreign minister Zarif and other high-ranking individuals from Iran. I think it's about time, actually. But I thought it was interesting that the Clarion Project mentioned that, and also went on to mention that one of the reasons why under the Trump administration the U.S. is going to deny visas finally to some of these Iranian leaders is because their parliament voted to approve over $200 million in extra funding, above and beyond the funding that the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, receives. So we have the Iranian government who's upset because we took out their number one leader that's orchestrating terrorist groups, Iranian or Shiite mobilization units, militias that are in effect assassination teams, that, you know, we have a president that took out the leader of that kind of an organization. And in the meantime, we find out that the Iranian government has approved more money for the IRGC. I think the people of America need to know that a lot of that money that supports those terrorists weren't just flown in by former President Barack Obama on a plane, but that the mosques in America provide a lot of funding for terrorism.
Yeah, that's a requirement under Sharia, that every cent that's taken in through the mosque, a portion of it, according to Sharia, which would be 12.5%, 1/8 of it, has to go to support of jihad.
Right, has to support jihad. And how many Americans even realize that their local neighborhood mosque is taking a percentage of the money coming in and using it to support terrorism? I wonder. Let's switch gears, Philip. Today, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, the leader of the Democrats, talked about limiting the power of the President of the United States, to take any further counterterrorism activities trying to suggest that the president wants war with Iran. I think the American people know this president doesn't want war with Iran.
Well, I don't know how much more plain he could have made it.
Right.
You're never going to see a more gracious overture by
a leader,
international leader.
Mm-hmm.
He came right out in his press conference today and laid it on the table. Let's try to find a way to work together. Don't you want to have a good life? Don't you want to have a better country? We have military hardware that works very well, but we don't want to use it. He was as plain as you could possibly be
The
today.
president handed the leadership of Iran an olive branch today at the press conference.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And we'll see if they're intelligent enough to embrace it. Let's talk about Israel for a moment. So one of the things that I've been concerned deeply about is Israel. I was just reading something the other night about how Soleimani, the man that was taken out in that counterterrorism operation, funded the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a powerful terrorist group that operates in the Gaza Strip next to Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement, the main rival to Hamas. And I'm concerned that it was the PIJ, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that drove hundreds of thousands of Israelis into the underground facilities, the safe rooms that they have underground, in light of all of the missiles that the Palestinian Islamic jihadists were sending over across that Gazan-Israeli border. Now that Soleimani is gone, do you think there's a possibility that the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, even though a new leader has already been put in place of the IRGC, is it possible that they might be slightly demoralized, knowing that not only Israel but Egypt and other countries in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, are really fed up with Iran and would probably stand with Israel?
Well, if you go by their press conferences and public statements on media, the PIJ leader, his name is Qadar Habib, said that Israel is the main beneficiary of the killing of Soleimani, along with the United States, and that they're both guilty of crimes and bias toward Israel in favor of, and that they are therefore an enemy of all the people of the entire global Islamic nation. That's just like yesterday. Another leader said that he was sorry about Soleimani's death. He accused Israel as well as the United States of being a part of it. Remember, you and I talked about this.
Yes.
About Israel and the alliance and so on. These guys are verifying it. And as you mentioned on our podcast on Monday, I think it was, just go on Twitter and look at the IDF. They're telling you exactly. So these guys, the PIJ leaders, are saying quite plainly, they don't appear to be that demoralized. Of course, you can't just go by what they say.
Right.
However, they're certainly laying their opinion right there on the table. And now let's not forget Hamas. Ismail Haniyeh eulogized Qasem Soleimani at the funeral in Tehran.
Right.
He traveled to and was there directly. So they're reestablishing, if you will, solidifying their commitment to one another vis-a-vis Iran and Hamas and/or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
And let's throw Turkey in. Let's throw President Erdogan of Turkey, because he's leader of the Muslim Brotherhood even here in America, and he's standing with them.
Which is a perfect segue to another very important point to touch on and reiterate. We've already talked about the fact that the IRGC and/or Iran are formally allied with the Muslim Brotherhood on a global level, which is all the more reason for our national security personnel to refocus once again on the Muslim Brotherhood, because they're directly, formally tied in with Iran. So if Iran and the IRGC are on our radar, if they've been designated as terrorists and terrorist organizations, then by default, because of their direct affiliation, the Muslim Brotherhood should also be reevaluate very seriously.
Absolutely.
That's all going on right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, call the president at his comment line. Would you put that number up, please? My producer will put that up for you now. Call the president on his comment line, and please, let's encourage the President of the United States to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Philip, do you agree with me that you think that will go a long way in helping further secure the safety of the American people?
Yes, people should not, NOT underline, underestimate the effectiveness of phone calling and or sending letters. It's very effective.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Philip. Philip Haney, author of See Something, Say Nothing. I know you're all over the place these days. You're working on a second book. We briefly talked about the new book that you're working on, having to do with the national security meltdown. Maybe if we continue to have these questions, we can encourage the Republicans to stand with the president. One more point I want to ask you before we go. What did you think about the fact that Senator Lee, I believe he's a senator, and Senator Rand Paul. What did you think about those two men coming out today in a press conference and suggesting that the debriefing that went on today with regards to why the president authorized the intel operation against Soleimani wasn't good enough for them? What was your thought on that?
It's very familiar because, I had people like that in my chain of command, and they are a part of shutting cases down. I mean, how much more of an explanation do you need than the fact that he was a globally designated terrorist?
My concern is that the individuals providing this debriefing on behalf of the administration cannot really say a lot, because those men and women that are out there in the field that have penetrated the Iranian government, that have penetrated the IRGC, that have penetrated Hamas and the Palestinians. There are Israelis, there are people that are actually in the field, and I have to believe that if too much is said, the Democrats would leak it, and that could lead to the death of Americans, Israelis, Iranians that are involved in counterespionage. I have to believe that could expose a lot of people to...
Well, it's not just a theory. It happened during the Obama administration.
It did.
He let slip information that targeted assets on the ground, and people got hurt because of it.
Right.
And as we talked about earlier, I believe this was an obvious human intel-based intelligence operation with Soleimani. They were monitoring his comm. They knew where the fight was. They knew which car he was in. I mean, you're talking
really close.
Only people can do that. Machines can't do that kind of thing.
Only people, human intelligence. That's what I'm saying. I mean, how much did Lee and Paul Rand expect them to talk about today? Really?
No, actually, to be honest with you, it's kind of tiresome. I guess it's because I've seen it and heard it so many times. And the other thing to always listen for when they make these kind of declarative statements or complaints is, you notice they never actually tell you what should have been done. Oh, it should have been proportional. Well, would you mind explaining what that means, please?
Yes, because why wasn't it?
They should have tried a different approach.
Right.
Well, what approach are you suggesting should have been tried? It's easy just to criticize. Why don't you try offering something, coherent as an alternative, and maybe, somebody will listen to you.
Why wasn't it proportional? I guess would be my question to Lee and Rand. Why wasn't it proportional? Because after all, an American was killed.
Yeah,
American was killed last month. So
600 people, more than 600 people, personnel, have already been killed.
Americans, right?
Yeah, is that proportional? Was it going to take 1,000, maybe?
Right. We took out one guy. We took out the leader. We took out one person. How is that somehow not proportional to the American that was just killed? And as you point out correctly, the 600 that were killed fighting in Iraq and the hundreds more that have been killed under the leadership and planning and execution of those plans by Soleimani. Hundreds and hundreds, if not maybe thousands, have been killed. I thought it was very proportional on the part of the President of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, if he obliterated an entire city, that would not be proportional.
Right.
But he didn't do that.
Right, he didn't. He showed great restraint. I think the President of the United States has shown great restraint and at the same time great courage to stand against even those Republicans that might throw stones. PHILIP Haney, any final thoughts today?
Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yes.
And for our president and administration and the good guys that are looking in the right direction to help protect our national security.
Right.
And for everyone who cares for liberty and freedom around the world. I'll tell you what, there are many multiples of thousands of people right now that are breathing a whole lot easier today because of what President Trump. Don't you think it's ironic that a Christian equal unbeliever president from a country delivered people that were being oppressed by their own Muslim leaders? Don't you find that incredibly ironic?
Yes, I do. I do want to mention, I did notice on Twitter that there were several Iranians and other Middle Easterners, I'm assuming Muslims, that were celebrating the death of Soleimani because he was responsible for the death or murder of individuals that either they were related to or friends of, etc., people that they knew or didn't know, but knew that Soleimani was a cold-blooded murderer.
This is a great day. This will be remembered in history by a lot of people for a long, long time, believe me.
Let's celebrate it and thank President Trump for all he's doing to maintain the national security interests of the United States. PHILIP Haney, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come on the Denice Gary Show today. We really appreciate you and your insight.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to our next time
together.
You,
sir. Thank you, sir. All right, next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about Frugani's. In fact, PHILIP Haney just came through town the other day, and we went there and had dinner. So now I have somebody else who's I've been to dinner with here that taken him to Frugani's restaurant and absolutely love the food there. They've been always voted to be the best Italian restaurant here in the Central Valley. And many people I've talked to say it's the best Italian restaurant they've ever been to. Frugani's restaurant, right here in the city of Bakersfield in the Central Valley here in California. Check them out. They're on Coffee Road. Call and let them know you're coming and let them know that you heard about Frugani's restaurant on the Denice Gary Show. And let's go to Scott Baker and Anatase Products. We'll be right back.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security. And in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Anatase Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Anatase Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Anatase Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Anatase Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Scott, tell us why you believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here out in the Antelope Valley, it contains, some of the most cutting-edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here, who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake, doing some fantastic cutting-edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one, putting a private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we, the private sector, are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anitae's Products. Anitae's Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Stratolaunch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anitae's Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Anitae's Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anitae's Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873, located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi, for your manufacturing and testing needs today.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Denice Gary Show. We look forward to you supporting this broadcast. We're really in a situation where we need to hear from you. Please go ahead and pull that envelope out today. Put right on the envelope, the Denice Gary Show, Post Office Box 82162. Bakersfield, California, 93380. P.O. Box 82162, Bakersfield, California, 93380. And if you put on that money order the Middle East Initiative, or on that check the Middle East Initiative, that is my 501c3 educational foundation, and it is tax deductible. Thank you so much for supporting the Denice Gary Show. And as our guest, PHILIP Haney, said today, let's pray for the president. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Let's pray for the safety of people everywhere. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and have a good evening.